Both.
No, and Anne, because I know you guys are, you know everything.
She knows. There's yeah.
So, the McKeldin Mall is the biggest academic mall in the United States. When it was built, was it the goal of the administration? Did they say, I want it to be the biggest mall in the United States, or did it kind of just happen on its own?
I've never seen anything that would lead me to believe that they had a conscious thought in terms of building the biggest mall. And in fact, if you look at our history, it's not the original center of campus. If you look at a lot of the buildings on the south side of campus, Marymount and Woods Hall and Key Hall, they're all sort of, they come into existence as being built on the back ends of buildings that were facing the other direction towards Morrill Hall, which is where the original center of campus was. So the development of McKeldin Mall as the big space it is today sort of happens organically throughout the university's history, and really, at least as far as we've been able to discover, not part of any kind of plan to say, oh, let's make the biggest or the best. Although, knowing Curly Bird, you could certainly see where he might, you know, have that as one more thing that would put the university on the map.
And the ODK fountain, well, I first would like to know, when was it erected on campus? Was it in the 90s?
I think it was 1990.
Okay. And was it something where the campus said, we want to put a mall here? Is there an organization who can sponsor it? And then ODK stepped in? Or was it kind of ODK taking the initiative and saying, we want to, we've been around a long time, let's build a mall, and they went to the administration on their initiative?
Um, one of the things that happened, the mall itself was sort of renovated in the early 1990s. They relocated the sundial to the mall at that point. They put in some concrete sidewalks at that point. The ODK fountain was put in at that point. I don't know, and may know exactly what caused ODK to decide to put the fountain there, but it was part of a major renovation where they basically dug up that entire space and said, okay, we're going to do some things. I mean, the mall has been, a drainage problem for, its entire existence because it's basically a big bowl. So, the sidewalks were put in to help the students be able to navigate without, getting their feet wet. I mean, the students in the mid 20th century used to call it the Turpy Finoki Swamp because you couldn't go from one side to the other without having your shoes completely covered with mud. And there's pictures of students in the yearbooks with their penny loafers all caked with mud and dirt when it would rain, and they would have to go across that space. So I think it was part of certainly it was part of an effort to sort of beautify and add some decoration to the center of the mall. Because if they were going to, obviously do the renovations, they wanted to have something to show for it.
What did you say it was called? Turpy Finoki?
Turpy Finoki, like the Okefenokee Swamp down in Florida. Yeah, that's what they called it. They called it the Turpy Finoki Swamp.
Wow, I did not know,
Yep.
even know that. So when you said it was renovated, around when did the mall start taking form? Because I know the administration building was around in the early 40s. Is that kind of when the mall?
The mall as we know it today would start, it probably would, start there. I mean, the mall main administration is built in 1940, but you didn't get the capper, up on the west side in McKeldin Library until 1958. So it's probably from the late 50s on that it really sort of takes that shape that we know it to be. But again, for many years after that, you've got, dirt paths that students have worn just by walking certain ways, or what they called goat trails, which they then ultimately, put concrete in to make it, again, look more organized. So all of those buildings, the way we see it today probably was sort of completed, I would say, in the late 50s. But you have other buildings springing up in the 1930s, 1940s in that space.
Okay. And also the sundial. I read that it was made in honor of the astronomy chair of the
Mm-hmm.
University of Maryland.
Uco Van Wyck.
Could you tell me about why was it so? Was he just someone who was such a big name that it was very influential to have someone like that on campus, and in honor of that, we made the sundial?
I My knowledge of it is that he, this was, from his students that felt attached to him, but I don't recall any great astronomical discovery or anything that he made that led to it. So it was part, his former students and part a class gift, I believe, class of 65, I think. And it was, I don't remember where it was stored prior to being on the mall, but it was relocated to the mall in the early 1990s when they did the renovation.
And then one of the recent additions, the Peace Garden.
Hmm.
So, could you tell me a little about that? How that emerged?
The Peace Garden is finished in 2003, and it comes out of the impromptu memorial that was set up at the bottom of the mall after 9/11. And the flowers, I believe, that the students and other staff and faculty on campus left there were buried underneath where the Peace Garden is now. So, I'm sorry, what are you saying? I can't. He's gonna have to edit this part out. What did you just say?